Hello, BookTube. Dave Wilde on his channel Wilde Reads made a video just a bit ago. The first in what I hope is a long series of discussion videos in which he talks about rereading, the phenomenon of rereading. And it's been on my mind lately too, because as I mentioned in an earlier video, we are rapidly here changing the seasons. We are rapidly leaving summer behind, except those of you who live in another hemisphere. But here in the United States, here in Boston, I can't speak to the rest of the United States. I'll just confine myself to Boston. In Boston, it's hot, it's humid, but there's a change in the air. You can feel it. Despite the weather, you can feel it. You can see it in the slant of light. You can notice it in the fact that there's less daylight every day. The summer is ending. It was a lot of fun, and it's coming to an end. And that always makes me think about the downhill slalom towards the end of the year. And that makes me think about reading, the nature of reading, reading stats. I've been going over my own reading statistics lately in preparation for my year-end summary of my reading. Rereading has been in the forefront of my thinking on the subject. So I was glad to see this video. I hope that many people respond in Dave's comments, and I wouldn't also mind if we started discussing his discussion videos in videos of our own. But he quoted some deliberately clickbaity articles and about the travesty of spending time on rereading when there are so many other books to read, and didn't agree with them, of course. Who in their right mind would? You're not supposed to agree with articles like that. But he also pointed out that he himself has experiences something that I bet is common for a lot of you, which is that he looks at some books on his shelves and thinks, boy, I really like that. I will reread that someday. But that day never comes. There's an onslaught, just a tsunami of new books to read. And boy, don't I know that. I get them. 10 in the mail every day. And I'm personally and professionally responsible for them. So I can't just let them pile up and say, well, here's 50 new books that I got this month. Here are the 2 that I want to read. No. But as I think you've noticed if you've watched videos on this channel, rereading is a huge part of what I do. It used to be more freeform. It used to be I was getting 10 books in the mail from publishers a month at most. I wasn't doing anywhere near as much reviewing as I'm doing now. And so the rereading that I did would be almost entirely dictated by what I would find at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, at the various charity shops that I go to. I would find something, A Man Without Qualities, or some translation of Terence that I haven't read, and I would think, okay, well, it's time to revisit. And that would be fun, letting the winds just blow me in whatever direction. I don't do that anymore at all, or very little. And that has prompted me, sometimes on this channel, to lament that I don't get to do as much rereading as I used to. And I don't know why I would think that way. It's totally not true. Instead, the new book industry now entirely dictates my rereading. But there's still a huge amount of it. Absolutely, there's still a huge amount of it. I get a new book in an advanced reader's copy. I read that. I usually read it, those advanced reader copies, at speed, for impressions, for flashes. What are my impressions of this book? Because I know during that read that I'm not going to use that first reading or that advanced copy as the grounds for a review. And therefore, I guess I've trained myself for the last 12 years or so that I'm also not going to use it as grounds for a permanent impression. So I read it just to get a sense of it. Is it going to wow me? Is it going to confuse me? Is it going to irritate me? Is it going to bore me? And then time goes on. That settles into the loam. That settles into the compost. And then, as you've seen on this channel, weeks or months later, I will get the finished copy of the book, and I use that as a kick in the pants to read the thing again, which is rereading. Then I will go at it slower. I will go at it with a pencil in hand. I will take notes, and I will make not a carved in stone forever and unchanging opinion of the book, but a far more formalized opinion. Something that I can actually work out in my head, enunciate in words, and then share with an audience. And I love that. I love that experience. I learn so much. I catch so much the second time around. And sometimes, quite often, in fact, there'll be a third time. A year will pass, or half a year will pass, and that book will come out in paperback. And I often, if my impressions the first 2 times were positive, or even if they were very negative, I will use that paperback's appearance, since they're all coming to me anyway, I'll use that paperback's appearance as a spur to read the book yet again, one more time. Not first impression, not paying close critical attention, just a third encounter with the book. And those third encounters often are wonderful in their own right. The only books that I tend not to do that with are books that are boring, where I don't expect, where I already know everything that the author has to share with me, and I'm generally not inclined to go sniffing around for little crumbs that I missed the first 2 times. And when you think about it, that's a huge percentage of the books that are out there. I'm no bigger fan of books anywhere on BookTube than yours truly, but even I'm willing to admit that's a huge percentage of the books that come to me. A huge percentage of them might have the best of intentions, but they're dull. You can't expect otherwise, I don't think. But one way or another, the whole experience of my reading life, which is the kind of thing I start to think of as the year starts slowly to change, would be so impoverished without rereading. And that makes sense when you think about it, because books are like people. They're made by people as an experience in getting their person's mind onto a vessel that can then be communicated to other minds. There's no more personal art form that exists. And people, actual flesh and blood people that you meet, tend to require more than one go, right? I mean, unless they're boring, unless you meet, and again, this is probably the large majority, just like with books. If you meet someone and you talk to them for a minute and you think, okay, well, I pretty much know where you start and stop. You might have the odd, interesting detail lodged somewhere in the background of your personal biography, but the person you are now, as callous as it sounds, I get you. I don't really need to study this at all. But think of all the people you meet that don't fit that description, who you find fascinating just to talk to every time you meet them. Or the even smaller category, but far more valuable, the people who become your friends. You don't say to a friend, well, I've already met you, so I'm not going to hang out with you on Thursday night. No, no, you don't do that. Because the relationship is organic. It grows as you pursue it. And I don't think I'm the only person on BookTube who can say, without being, well, we're among friends here, we're all book geeks here. I don't think I'm the only person on BookTube who could say with complete honesty that books have been some of my best friends. Why should we treat them any different? Of course you want to revisit them from time to time. I've had this, it's been, I admit, irritatedly on the front of my mind because of ShakeTube 2018. It's an event that I'm doing with a couple of other booktubers all throughout the month of September, in which we all pick Shakespeare plays or poems and revisit them in videos, and invite all the rest of you to do so as well. And I intentionally, from my aspect, my end of BookTube, of ShakeTube 2018, I intentionally picked plays that we talked about last year, and also plays that have been talked about many times in many other venues as well. I intentionally did that to underscore the fact that this is, like so many other authors, an author you really need to reread. And I was kind of amazed at how many different people in Voxer or in messages or in emails or even in comments on my video complained because, well, I don't want to do King Henry V because I've already read that. You have changed since you read it. The play has changed since you read it. And it's possible that it contains more material in it, more nuance, more subtlety, than you could hoover up in one reading, no matter who you are. I wanted to stress that, and I was a little amazed at some of the pushback against the idea of rereading these things, when that's, for me, this has been a source of so much, not just learning, but enjoyment. There's virtually nothing that I love that I will not reread. And I look forward to the experience, not as if the book were new, but because of the elements of the reading experience that are not available the first time around. No matter how good a reader you are, they're not available the first time around. The thing has to unfold and grow inside you, and you have to grow towards it. And those are organic processes that are only accessible on reread. So I wanted to make a response, a discussion response. I don't know if Dave really, if he actually wants video responses. I'm hoping he does. I hope he's not mad at me. But I wanted to add my 2 cents worth to his. He did a great video on an aspect of reading that I don't think gets nearly as much attention on BookTube as it deserves. Understandably, I guess, if we're making videos, you feel like you've got the spotlight on you. You feel like you've got an audience. You might not want to start the camera and then say, well, here are the 2 books that I read this week, and they're both rereads. I admit, in some of the aspects of the video culture, that feels anticlimactic, but it absolutely shouldn't. It absolutely shouldn't. When I see somebody hold up a book and say, I read this 2 years ago and I went back and reread it just now, and let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about that experience. I'm doubly excited because they've changed in that time. They've learned all sorts of things, lost some things, gained some things, they're presumably a better reader. So it's a new but better experience, because one of the things, one of the articles that Dave quoted in his video mentions that on the first read of a book, you're busy shaking hands and memorizing plastic name tags and getting your bearings, and that distracts from the reading experience in a way that isn't present in a reread. That's part of why, a big part of why I reread so many new releases. Because the first time around, I'm just getting the lay of the land. The second time is when the actual reading, the genuine reading, really starts. And that's absolutely true. So I will leave a comment on Dave's video, of course, I'll leave a link so you can all go and watch it and leave comments of your own. But I also, like him, I want to know what is the nature of your rereading. It's a fascinating subject. But anyway, I just thought I'd add a response video there. So I'll wrap this up, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.